Hello guys, and welcome. Today we're gonna be going through the tier list for level 1 classes. You guys requested from the last video that I go through some early game builds, and essentially we're gonna be making 4 videos back to back in the next few days where we're gonna be going through all of the possible combinations, well, not all of them, but all of the good combinations and the pure combinations for each class, and ranking them and putting them in tier list. As you guys requested it, let's get straight to it. Now, it's important to note on the first level of the game, the only challenging fight you're gonna get, it's a Commander Zhalk fight. And that's what we're basing off this tier list on. On level 2, we're gonna be going through some other things as well and multi-classing them. But for level 1, we're looking at the raw power of the class against Commander Zhalk. So first of all, Barbarians. What do Barbarians get? Barbarians at level 1 get Rage. Rage allows them to take half damage from physical sources, and they have advantage on strength checks and saving throws. So this makes them effectively tankier than a level 2 fighter or a level 2 rogue or level 3 wizard, really, against Commander Zhalk. This is going to be really useful if your Mind Flayer dies. They do enough damage to be considered acceptable, right? And to use your actions to just keep attacking him. However, they're not going to be the most damaging class, as we'll see down the line. So they do have a lot of survivability. They could tag the champions for like a couple of turns. So definitely useful, and they can rage twice. So I would say they're in the higher tiers, around B tier is where I would put them. Up next, we have Bards. Now Bards, they do have a lot of abilities and versatility, but let's look at what they have. So they can use Vicious Mockery, which it doesn't do enough damage to justify the cost of it. But what they really do is that they give disadvantage to a creature on its next attack roll. So you can use this against Commander Zhalk, and if they fail their save, they're gonna get disadvantage on their next attack. Not both of them though. So their second attack against the Mind Flayer will be done without disadvantage. So not great. However, Mage Hand is an amazing spell to get at this point in the game, because you can use it to throw items on Commander Zhalk. You can use it to throw healing potions on your allies. Very useful. It's an extra action. So just because of that, they are really good to have on level 1. Then for their spells, they're lacking a little bit here. Bane could be useful. Dissonant Whispers could be useful. Fairy Fire could be useful, but again, they're not the most optimal spells to get at this point, as you'll see down the line with the Cleric. But frightening the enemy, making him have disadvantage, is useful. And banning them is also good, especially if you combo it with giving protection from evil and good from Shadowheart onto the Mind Flayer. Then it could make Commander Zhalk miss a lot. So just because of that, they're good, but again, their spells individually are not as good as the other spells we're going to be seeing down the line. So Healing Word is useful, but you don't want to be using it at this point. You have to win this encounter out in other means because you don't have a lot of spell slots. So they don't have a good way and reliable way to do damage. Maybe they would have to use a Rapier, right? Which Commander Zhalk is resistant against. So looking at it, I would say they're not the strongest class, but they can definitely be used very well if you know what you're doing. So if you know what you're doing, they're A tier. If you don't know what you're doing, they're probably C tier. So make sure you guys study the fight if you're going to start a Bard. And to use Bane and Dissonant Whispers is probably what I would be doing. But they're both concentration, so maybe just Bane. And then do it again when the champions arrive. So yeah, Bard goes on tier A, and let's head into the Cleric. Now, let's look at the subdomains of the Cleric first of all. The best subdomains here is War, because you can actually get 3 extra attacks. 3 extra attacks that you can actually use Commander Zhalk's blade against him, which is the strongest blade. And it does also a bit of fire damage as well. He's resistant to it, but it's got D12 plus a D4 and it's very good. You'd have to put points in strength though, so make sure you do. I'll think about that before you go for that combo. Tempest Domain is also okay, but again, at level 1, the strongest Cleric subclass is War Domain. You get to do 2 attacks every turn. 2 attacks every turn is very good. From cantrips, Sacred Flame is good against Commander Zhalk, the rest not too great. But what is really important for the Cleric on level 1 is that you can get protection from evil and good, and command. These are the 2 best spells on level 1, because command can force Commander Zhalk to drop his weapon, and you should safe scam that, and he fails it quite often. It's about 50% for him, I believe, even higher if you have a good wisdom. And then you can just pick it up and smack him with it. And his attacks, instead of dealing 1d12 plus 5 plus 1d4 fire, they're going to be dealing 6. So you're nerfing him big time. And then protection from evil and good, you use that on the Mind Flare, and the fiends, which Commander Zhalk is a fiend, will have disadvantage on attack rolls against him. So you're protecting Commander Zhalk, you're protecting Mind Flare very well, and you get the weapon and you disarm him. And also you can get Sanctuary if you really want to. Remember that Shadowheart can also pick up these spells. You just have to change them because she doesn't have them prepared. She can pick them up, and then one of you will protect the Mind Flare, and the other one will force the command on Commander Zhalk on turn 1. So you can actually get this combo done from the first turn. This is gonna be giving you a huge advantage in the fight. From the other spells, the ones I actually like is Create or Destroy Water and Inflict Wounds. I would pick this on my Shadowheart if I had a Sorcerer or a Wizard. We'll go through that though later. But just remember that Shadowheart will be able to use this. Inflict Wounds, if you save scam this to crit, it could do up to 32 average damage and up to 60 overall damage, right? It's not going to do 60, but it can do very well. So using that against Commander Zhalk is going to be great if you need a little bit of burst. However, these are the 2 spells that you need to have. So many options. You already have way too good options from the beginning of the game. Definitely an S tier class, and I don't think there's a better one when it comes to fighting Commander Zhalk. So yeah, Cleric S tier. Guys, remember, if you enjoy the content, drop a subscribe. It really helps with the channel. It really helps to motivate me, and just, yeah, thank you for being here. Okay, so up next, we have the Druid. Druids, they get cantrips. Which cantrips are good from the Druid spell list at this point? Shillelagh is good. Thornwhip is also good. Thornwhip is good for repositioning Commander Zhalk, and Shillelagh is good because you use it as a bonus action and your attacks are considered magical, and Commander Zhalk has resistance to non-magical attacks, so a Druid can actually do full damage and even more damage than a Barbarian, arguably. Then for their spells, you can get Entangle, which would require a little bit of safe scamming in order to make Commander Zhalk fail his strength save because he's quite strong. But again, Entangle is probably the strongest condition you can inflict on him, because they have disadvantage on their attack rolls and they're attacked with advantage, and they also have disadvantage on their dexterity saving throws. So your Shadowheart is going to be able to do Sacred Flame on him much more reliably. Very good, useful spell. It would require safe scamming, but again, quite good. Then from the other spells, the only useful one really is Fairy Fire, because it gives advantage on attack rolls against it. Healing Word, also good. Cure Wounds, not so much. Create Water doesn't really work very well. Ice Knife could be used for damage, but then again, is not the best spell for damage. So yeah, I would say their damage is good, their utility is good, so they're definitely Bard tier. Then up next we have the Fighter. Now, Fighter's a little bit disappointing, guys, not gonna lie. The only thing they get is a fighting style. So a little bit more damage or a little bit more defense. Nothing really special. Again, I guess you could go... you could go for protection and try to protect the Mind Flayer. If you go high elf, you can also get the Mage Hand. So maybe it could be okay. But their damage is going to be resistant. You don't have any magical weapons. Definitely not the best class here. I would place them at rank D. Up next, we have the Monk. Monks, they get their Flurry of Blows, but they can only use it once on level 1. So in level 1, they can do 3 attacks on the first turn, and then 2 attacks on each subsequent turn. So more attacks is more damage, but all of this damage is going to be resisted by the Mind Flayer. So just because it can be resisted, it's not that great. Like a Druid will be doing pretty much the same damage, and they don't get any other means of doing something useful. So they're okay, but they're not that good. So I would definitely give them somewhere between a B and a C tier. I would think their damage would be very equivalent to the Barbarian, but their survivability is worse. So they go in the C tier. Up next, we have Paladins. So Paladins will do pretty much about the same damage as a Barbarian, but they also get their Divine Cerns, which will give them advantage for free. Well, they use their bonus action, but they don't have much to do with it anyway. And they can also get the Oath of the Ancients for 10 healing AoE around them, which can be very useful, especially when the Cambions are left, to just bring your party up consistently and reliably without you having to use the help action, right? Then you get if you go with Oath of the Ancients. This is very strong. And Oath of the Ancients is not great because it uses your action. Oath of Devotion is not great. And Oath of Vengeance can be used, especially if you use it, let's say, on Lae'zel. She will be able to do attack, bonus action, days, so that's 4 radiant damage, and then on the next turn again another attack, so it's 6 radiant damage for your bonus action. It's okay. Oath of the Ancients is so much better, though. It's not even a competition. So if you go Oath of the Ancients, which is the best choice here, you could even reliably be considered an A tier, but I would say because you don't have that much survivability, it's probably tier B, close to the Barbarian. You can do some shenanigans against the Cambions, but not very useful again. Ranger. Now, usually I hate on Rangers, but what I really like about them is that you can get the Beast Tamer ability. And this thing, while it may not look as good early on, like getting a Fine Familiar, it can be so useful, because if you go for a Raven, you can blind Commander Zhalk consistently. You would have to save scam, yes, but you can give him disadvantage and give advantage on all attacks against him. So just because you can save scam the Raven Familiar, very strong. Other than that, the other abilities are not great. So maybe if you go for the Stalker, you can do radiant damage reliably since he's going to be blinded. Not bad, not the best, but definitely not bad. I would probably think that they're a little bit better than the Paladin because they can give advantage to all your allies. So they go in tier A. Next, we have the Rogue. Now, Rogues get expertise, so if you really want to be sneaky with the way that you're going to be doing it, you should be getting expertise in athletics and then going to your ability score and putting a lot of points in strength and dexterity, and then put the rest in constitution and have it look something like this, right? And now your chance to push is you have +7 on any attempt to push your enemy. So that's gonna make it actually very likely for you to push Commander Zhalk into whatever area of effect you're creating. So that's useful. Expertise on level 1. You would have to respect that down the line because you don't want to be the pusher of the party. And if you go high elf, you can get Mage Hand or Gith. So I guess that's also alright. Damage-wise, you're not going to be doing a lot, though. Yeah, you get that little bit extra of sneak attack, and you can dual wield and do a little bit more damage again. Your damage is definitely fighter level, but the fact that you can get expertise on pushing makes you a little bit better. So I think you're as close to the monk. Again, if you guys really want to beat it, you can go for the mage hand, but keep in mind that your race doesn't change, cannot be changed. So I wouldn't choose my race on the level 1 fight, right? Now we have the 3 final classes, which are all spellcasting classes. Let's look at the Sorcerer. So Sorcerers, they get a lot of cantrips. You definitely want to be getting Mage Hand if you don't have it from your class. You want to be going for Ray of Frost, Shocking Grasp, and maybe Firebolt, but not for that fight. So Ray of Frost is going to be useful if your Shadowheart casts Wet on the enemy, then you're going to be getting double the damage on every cantrip that you throw. And you can reliably get high ground in this fight, so you're going to have you're going to have advantage on your attack, and you're going to be dealing more damage. So like 2d8 instead of 1d8. So that's really good. Shocking Grasp is good because it has advantage anyway against him, and if he's wet, you also do double damage. But Ray of Frost will also create an ice surface on his feet, and there's a chance for him to trip, and if you can get him to trip, he loses his turn and your Mind Flayer lives longer. So very useful. And then from spells, Sorcerers get some good options. Witch Bolt, again, if you make the enemy wet, you're going to be doing 2d12 instead of 1d12 that you would be doing normally. So 2d12 is probably the highest damage you can do consistently on Commander Zhalk, so you're the highest DPS class. And Chromatic Orb is very good for creating surfaces. You could go for like the Acid Surface and reduce his armor class by 2. That's going to be really useful, right? Because all of your attacks that your allies are going to be doing, your Shadowheart, your Lae'zel, the Mind Flayer, Ars Pet, are going to be doing are going to be landing a lot more often. You could alternatively go for Ray of Sickness and try to save scamming. His Constitution saving throw is probably going to be quite high, so it's going to be hard for you to get it to work, but you can save scam it. So also works. So good DPS, good cantrips, highest DPS probably in the game. So I would put it on tier A just because of the DPS. The utility is not that great, but it's definitely alright. From subclasses, Tempestuous Magic is good, maybe at later levels more than at this point, but you can use your spell and then reposition to high ground without proccing the interaction with additional mobs. So definitely alright. Tides of Chaos might be okay. You never know what you're going to get with Wild Magic. Probably the strongest one, I would say, would be Storm Sorcery at this point because of the free flight. Up next, we have Warlocks. Now, Warlocks may not seem very good at this point, but I assure you, they get 2 of the best cantrips. Force damage is very reliable for damage. For subclass, I would probably go Fiend because of Armor of Agathis. And then for spells, you want to be getting either Witch Bolt and combine the DPS as we did with the Sorcerer. Remember guys, it's concentration, just like Hex. You can also get Protection from Evil and Good, cast it on yourself before the battle, or cast Hex before the battle, and then Short Rest. So for the subclasses, you definitely want to be picking the Fiend. Why is that? Because the Fiend Warlock will give you the command spell. Command spell, again, as we said about the Cleric, can disarm Commander Zhalk, and that's really useful. Hex is also useful because it does a lot of damage. So you could prepare and be concentrating on Hex before the fight. And then Short Rest, you're going to keep your concentration and then go in the fight, command him to drop the weapon, pick it up, and start smacking him with it while having him Hex and doing extra necrotic damage. So you're going to be doing 1d12 plus your strength modifier plus the 1d4 damage from the blade and plus 1d6 damage from the necrotic. So very good. Alternatively, make him wet and use a Witch Bolt. Also works very, very well. Or you can even go on high ground and use your Eldritch Blast, and you can also have Mage Hand to be throwing things at him and killing pots on your allies. So just the Fiend Warlock, guys, it's the best class you can have at this point. It's a little bit worse than the Cleric because you have to play around with the spell slots because you only have one spell slot instead of two, but you can play around it with short rests and still be very useful. So the Fiend is definitely S tier. And finally we have the Wizard. Now, Wizards, again, very squishy. They get the same cantrips as a Sorcerer, but they can only choose 3. Definitely, I would go for Mage Hand, Ray of Frost, and probably Shocking Grasp as well at this point of the game. They're the 3 best cantrips to have on the first fight. Now, for spells, so you get good damage cantrips, and you also get Mage Hand. Mage Hand is huge in the first battle. You're definitely picking Find Familiar. You're getting for the Raven, and that's going to make you very strong against the Commander Zhalk. It's an additional creature that can damage him, but you go for the Raven. It doesn't do enough damage, but it blinds him, and he gets disadvantage on every attack, and you're going to be safe scamming it. So Raven can win you the fight. Then you can also get Protection from Evil and Good, which is very useful to cast on the Mind Flayer, right? And use your Shadowheart to be casting commands. And you can concentrate, or you can go for Witch Bolt and make him wet with Shadowheart and do double damage on him. So good damage, good utility, even better than the Sorcerer. Good options, and you can also get Chromatic Orb, which again you can use for Acid. Magic Missiles is very reliable damage if you want to go down that path. And you can also do Long Strider on every party member. So your party member is, and this is free, guys. You can do it for free. It's a ritual. All your party members are going to be faster, so you're going to be able to get closer to Commander Zhalk and do your spells before on the first turn. Then also you get the ability to go for Ray of Sickness and give him disadvantage through that method, right? So many great options. Find Familiar, which is going to be very useful to save scam with. Good damage, good CC, buffs for your team, hands down, strongest utility and damage. I would say it's very close to the Sorcerer. It's probably a little bit better though, because they have the Ranger, the Find Familiar, just like the Rangers. So good damage, good utility. Basically, this is what all the S tier classes have. Fighter's a little bit sad. So this is the final view, guys, of my level 1 early game build series. Please let me know if you liked it and if you found it useful, and we'll do a level 2 one as well. If you enjoy the content, guys, subscribe to the game. It really helps, and thank you for the support and thank you for being here. I'll see you around.